Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for once again inviting me to join you as you come together today for your membership meeting. I can still remember the last time we were together physically back in January of 2020 for your weekly luncheon meeting at the New World Makati. Back then, no one could have imagined our present situation. Over a year and a half into the pandemic, COVID-19 cases continue to rise. Many are still dying without even seeing a doctor. Millions of Filipinos are out of work, struggling to put food on the table, doing everything they can to survive another day. We should all know by now, there is untold hunger, suffering, and death. Hospitals are filled to capacity. Our frontliners are exhausted. The jobless are going hungry. Meanwhile, billions upon billions of pesos went into questionable contracts while millions of Filipinos struggle. Bad governance and corruption lie at the root of our problems, and this is the same reason why we feel as if we were left to fend for ourselves, relying on the generosity of each other to survive. We have seen this in the bayanihan spirit of the Filipino over the past year. Solidarity has paved the way forward, whether it's banding together with a group of friends to raise funds for a sack of rice, setting up community pantries, or putting up their own donation drives to give aid to typhoon victims and those who have been affected by the pandemic. You at the Rotary Club also see this spirit firsthand. Because I know that you remained active in your communities during the pandemic, the OVP, we are very fortunate to have worked with various Rotary clubs even before the pandemic. And in every instance, you showed your commitment and determination to be agents of change. Because of our partnerships in Angat Buhay, we have put up dormitories in the farthest communities of Bukidnon and Negros Occidental. So students do not have to walk very far just to go to school. With your help, we were also able to provide relief assistance to victims of calamities such as the Taal eruption and the Itbayat earthquake in Batanes, as well as those who need sources of livelihood in Marawi. At the OVP, we have also witnessed the power of collaboration and volunteerism as we shifted our focus to our COVID-19 initiatives. By the time ECQ was declared in Metro Manila in March of 2020, our COVID-19 response operations were already in place. We were then already providing PPE sets for medical frontliners in many hospitals through the selflessness of volunteers and partners. When we faced a shortage of PPEs because we were competing with the rest of the world, we tapped local dressmakers and community-based sewers to produce more affordable ones, and we partnered with doctors to make sure they are safe. When ECQ was declared, the entire public transport system was paralyzed. So with the help of private partners, we provided shuttle buses and temporary shelters for our health workers, which started the following morning. We plied 8 routes in Metro Manila and served 220,000 passengers. When we were doing the shuttle service, we learned from the frontliners themselves that they need dormitories so they can stay temporarily, where they can stay temporarily. So that the same week, we opened free dorms for our frontliners in Metro Manila, again with the help of private partners. We were able to open 12 dormitories, which catered to 498 frontliners. We also built temporary shelters for medical frontliners inside the Lung Center of the Philippines, NKTI, the Quezon Memorial Medical Center, which we call the Oasis Project. Some of the shelters were also used as triage facilities in other hospitals. When COVID-19 cases surged in Cebu, we did not hesitate to replicate our programs there through our Bayanihan Sugbuanon initiative. We were able to do bus and ferry shuttle services. Our ferry service was from Olango Island to Lapu-Lapu, which catered to 11,768 frontliners. We also opened 9 free dormitories, which catered to more than 200 frontliners in Cebu. We still regularly distribute food to communities in need to this day, and we source a large part of it from local farmers. In partnership with the local governments of Quezon City, Pasig, Muntinlupa, and Zamboanga City, we also rolled out community marts, a digital palengke delivery service that aims to help market vendors and tricycle drivers improve their income during ECQ. Our total sales for our community marts reached 30.5 million pesos. As we addressed one gap, we discovered others and moved to fill them. After the Department of Education announced the shift to the blended learning modality, we immediately launched Bayanihan Eskwela. It began with a simple gadget donation drive, but eventually branched out into 3 other initiatives given the enormity of the need. First, we teamed up with academics and creatives who gave their time and skills pro bono to produce instructional videos which help both students and parents adjust to blended learning. Second, we also set up community learning hubs. These are safe spaces that follow health protocols with volunteer tutors, learning tools and supplies, an internet connection for children who do not have gadgets of their own or might find it hard to adjust to distance learning at home. At present, we are catering to over 4,000 students in our 58 community learning hubs nationwide. And third, we are also conducting more intensive teacher training initiatives with the help of private partners. We also reached out to those who were recently unemployed because of the pandemic. We launched sikap.ph. It is an online jobs matching platform for blue-collar workers, where we partnered with 394 employers and posted 29,364 job vacancies on our site. We also launched iskaparate.com to help small business owners gain an online presence. With the help of USAID and Philippine Sorry about that.
Okay lang, ma'am. Okay lang.
It's okay,
with the help of USAID and Philippine Business for Education, we are also opening doors for out-of-school youth through training programs. Recently, we launched a social entrepreneurship program with De La Salle University and ING, and another program called Upskills Training Program, also with ING and Dual Tech. Following the recent surge in COVID cases in NCR, we launched our free telemedicine platform called Bayanihan eConsulta. Since we launched last April 7, we have received a total of 74,379 requests already. And to accommodate this, we are doing free teleconsultation with the help of 1,288 volunteer doctors and 4,185 volunteer call bridging agents. Aside from this, we have been providing COVID care kits, mobile laboratory, and other services to those who need it. We also launched our swab cab mass testing drive to help test and trace more people who are either getting sick, have been exposed to someone who tested positive, or live in identified high transmission areas. We rolled out Vaccine Express in different LGUs to help speed up vaccine deployment. We have already brought this to Manila, Quezon City, Pasig, Naga, Iriga, San Pedro in Laguna, San Fernando, and Magalang in Pampanga, Capas, Tarlac. This weekend, we will bring Vaccine Express to Cagayan de Oro City. All these efforts were made possible only through the selflessness of volunteers and partners. Because Filipinos from all walks of life, from big companies to ordinary citizens, came together, helped out, and did what they can. We were able to accomplish a lot of things. because collaboration served as the lifeblood of many of our initiatives, because we harnessed the bayanihan spirit of our people, and because we became the center of gravity of many private interventions. It is very clear to us. These collaborations, these partnerships can only be sustained if trust is abundant. This is why we at the OVP worked hard in professionalizing our ranks and fixing the bureaucracy to ensure that we earn the trust of the public. In my first year in office, we already worked to get an ISO certification, which we achieved in 2017, a year after I took office, and has been recertified every year since then. We also focused on transparency, accountability, and prudent use of funds to achieve the unqualified opinion or the highest audit rating from the Commission on Audit, which we have been getting for 3 years in a row now. Trust is the currency of governance, and we earn the trust when we act with integrity, with transparency, with compassion, and most of all, with empathy. This is the kind of response that we desperately need today, not only to survive COVID-19, but to forge a truly better normal after it. And this is made possible by a leadership that empowers, nurtures, and listens, that harmonizes and collaborates, that transforms good intentions towards concrete action, that unites people towards a singular vision. I know that this is the same spirit that animates you at the Rotary Club of Manila. The task for you now is to keep engaging, keep widening and strengthening your networks, never tire in fighting for your advocacies, deepen your connections with one another, and engage further in your communities. Be creative, be resourceful in seeking solutions. If we are able to solve one problem, let us move further. Find more gaps and let's fill them, and inspire others to do the same. The challenges we face today are enormous, but the opportunities likewise abound. Opportunities to engage each other in forging a society that is fairer and kinder, that is more humane, more inclusive, that recognizes the dignity, especially of the most vulnerable among us. So let us rise as one human family, bound not only by this crisis, but more importantly, by our collective aspirations and a collective resolve to achieve this. With the spirit of bayanihan guiding our every action, as long as we come together in the spirit of compassion, empathy, community, and love, I have no doubt that we shall overcome. Thank you very much and keep safe.
Maraming salamat, Honorable Vice President Leni Robredo, for that enlightening, empowering, and inspiring talk. Our esteemed speaker has consented to an open forum. May I present the members of our panel of Q&A facilitators, composed of past District Governor Obet Pagnanganan, Director-elect Rafi Alunan, and Director-elect Tony Lopez. They will be presenting the questions we have gathered. Questions have been allied to avoid repetition. Questions posted in the chat box will be submitted to the panel of Q&A facilitators and will be asked if we still have time. We've also avoided questions answerable via VP Leni's website. In terms of sequence, we'll start with Governor Obet, followed by elect Rafi, and then Director-elect Tony. And then we start all over again. So now, may I turn over the virtual floor to our first questionnaire, PDG Gov Obet.
Thank you very much, Tito. Good morning, and thank you very much. Congratulations for the Vice President for that very good speech. And thank you for this opportunity to articulate questions from the more than 900 participants as of now and growing. For the first question, ma'am, the Philippines is presently the world's largest importer of rice, even surpassing China in 2019, and it started to import huge quantities of pork, vegetables, and fish. Meanwhile, the aging Filipino farmers, fisher folk, with average age of 58 years, constitute 70% of the poorest of the poor. If you're elected president, how would your administration rectify this situation and attain food security for our countrymen?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Gov. Obet. Agriculture will definitely be one of the top priorities of the administration if you make it. It was one of the reasons why Senator Kiko Pangilinan was chosen to be my running mate, because agriculture and food security has always been his paramount advocacy. Our goal now is to make sure that this health crisis does not turn into a food crisis. So we need to invest heavily in the agriculture sector, particularly in technology and farm-to-market infrastructure. Agriculture has not been prioritized in the past 25 years because primarily if we include factors such as food processing, other agricultural services, transport, trade, finance, packaging, we will see that 35 to 40% of our economy is rooted really on agriculture. Prioritization of import and prioritization of import and import liberalization. If we take a look at Vietnam, China, and Thailand, they have completed the World Trade Organization design of import liberalization, and they were successful. Because they passed laws for this. The WTO design includes market access, domestic support, sanitary systems to prevent entry of diseases, etc. In the Philippines, economists are committed ideologically. Consumers will benefit because producers will be forced to be competitive. But why is rice from other countries much, much cheaper? That is because of subsidies and government support for other countries. In the Philippines, radical market access is being applied, not domestic support subsidies. According to the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act, there should be consultations with stakeholders, but when we talk to them, they would always say that it has never happened. Senator Kiko passed the Sagip-Saka Act, and there should be laws for domestic support, and there should be buffer funds, etc. Our laws contain a lot of provisions to help domestic production, but there is a lot of problem with operationalizing what is in the law. So we must employ an effective governance in agriculture, and we can do this by extending adequate and sustained budget support. I will also have to empower and capacitate our farmers and fisherfolk. We can do this by building, all the necessary infrastructure, farm-to-market roads, installing shared service facilities. They also must be given access to technology so they can modernize, scale up, and speed up their operations. We need balance, not just by focusing on rice, but by also including corn, coconut, etc. Hindi rin kailangan kunin sa rice ang pera. Increase the budget para hindi mag-agawan. We must also ensure proper and effective use of funds, upgrade partnership with local government units, share more responsibilities and resources, especially in the light of the Mandanas ruling, which will be operationalized next year. Strengthen and institutionalize stakeholder representation and participation in planning, implementing, and monitoring programs. Calibrate imports on deficit. This has been the complaint of many of our farmers, even livestock producers, that they have been suffering because of the import liberalization policies of our government. Just to share with you, in closing, just to share with you what we have been doing at the OVP. We have been doing a lot of interventions as far as farming communities are concerned. Our main focus is training our farmers to be entrepreneurs. What we do is not just capacitating them, but influencing them in the kind of crops that they will grow, which is more attuned to the demands of the market. We're doing a lot of programs on this. We we are using the Jollibee model where farmers are linked to institutional buyers. They do away with middlemen. They have more say in the prices. They earn more. But at the same time, the more important part is there is a steady market already, and prices are more steady. So this has been very successful as far as our farming communities are concerned, and this is really a model which can be scaled up. We have just had a briefing with a meeting with farmer groups the other day in the office. This is something that really interests them. So there are a lot of things that need to be done. And one of them really is the most basic is make sure that there is enough budget for agriculture.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
May we call on Director-elect Rafi to please ask the next question.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice President. It's good to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you, Sec.
We truly live in interesting times, as you said. Our intergenerational problems, such as poverty, corruption, and malgovernance, are compounded further by existential issues such as human-induced climate change, coronavirus pandemics, global recession, and armed conflict amongst the big powers. After 5 years in your post, preparing for the possibility of taking over at any time, should an emergency arise or when elected to the highest post, have you been able to develop a mental blueprint in addressing the root causes of these intergenerational problems and existential risks to national survival? If so, may we know the brushstrokes of such a blueprint? Perhaps you can just choose one item like corruption, which is so embedded in our national life.
Sec, when I assumed office in 2016, we already were very much aware of how limited the mandate and resources of the Office of the Vice President will be. But we prepared the office to make it a model of governance. I was telling everyone a while ago, I mentioned in my speech a while ago, that one of the things that we really took care of was really professionalizing the office, professionalizing the bureaucracy, because I feel that it is one of the biggest contributions any office can give to the Filipino people. Services for, the conduct of our operations, the way we serve our people will be much better and more efficient if the bureaucracy if the entire bureaucracy is professionalized and managed well. But as far as corruption is concerned, there are really three things that are most important. One of them is accountability. And when I say accountability, it is not enough for public servants to be clean. It is not enough to say that this particular public servant is not corrupt, but it is very important to make sure that there are systems in place to force public servants not to be corrupt. And when we say accountability, there are many different ways on how to ensure that public officials are accountable. The next is transparency. When I was a member of Congress, many of the bills which I filed were really to ensure that there is a very transparent way of being accountable. And again, there are several measures that can be institutionalized to do that. The freedom of information, for one. I filed a full disclosure bill where public offices should be required to post everything on how they are using public funds. The reason why we work very hard in making sure that we would get from year to year an qualified COA opinion is to show everyone that we have been very serious in making sure that we have been very prudent in the way we spend public funds, no matter how small our budget is. The third sec is accountability, transparency, and the third is really people empowerment. I believe that people empowerment should be institutionalized, and I'm saying this from the experience that we've had with my husband in Naga. The concept of direct people participation in governance has been very, very successful in Naga. A people's council was formed, and this people's council was like a parallel council for government, meaning to say people have a platform where they can directly participate in planning, in monitoring, in evaluating projects. Budgets are not passed before they are presented to the People's Council. You know, the very concept of when ordinary people are there to monitor every single thing that government is doing, then government will be forced to be, government will be forced to be very faithful in the way it conducts its regular business. And our experiences in Naga, we try to replicate at the office of the Vice President, and we have been very successful. It's something, again, that can be scaled on a national level. I have come across many local officials we've mentored, and in their own capacities have tried to replicate our programs, and they have been very, very successful as well.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. It's so refreshing to hear that from you.
Thank you, Sec.
May we now call on Director-elect Tony Lopez.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice President and President-to-be. Can you cite some fundamentals and demographics?
Pagkain. Welcome to my challenge ko. Pagkain kayo.
Sa kaso ng nurse and vlogger na si Grace, kapag napuyat, kapag stressed,
Na po tayo doon para makita nyo din.
Po pala mga kabatang helmet ang sitwasyon dito sa may Ilaya Divisoria.
Kasama ko si Grace ngayon.
Ayan, magbibigay na lang tayo ng konting tulong kay nanay para dahil hindi nga siya nakaka...
Gibisangan mo, gibit!
Ayan, pila kuya? 1,000! 200! Kuya, ilan po kayo?
Ayuda!
Ayan, ito na po yung mga food packs. So kasama ko na po ang leader po ng mother leader po na si Ma'am Rochelle Ho.
Hello po. Thank you very much po sa lahat ng mga sponsor.
That convince you that you will win the presidency?
Lopez, naging bakit tayo sa UST. Alis kasabay ko yan. Lopez.
Actually, sa computer.
Can we mute the others, please, Madam President, before you answer? You'll have to unmute yourself, ma'am. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, you're on.
Okay na. Ako, sir, just to give you an maybe I will have to provide context first. I never really intended to run. I felt like I did not have enough resources. The last 5.5 years have been very difficult for me as far as having our party has been decimated. We have not had the opportunity to really deal with many different areas which can strengthen my political reach. I was very practical. I had wanted to go back to my province to run for a local post. So I was not really planning on running for the presidency. If you look at my numbers, they are not very encouraging. And we expected that. I have been at the receiving end of a lot of disinformation, a lot of fake news. Sabi ko nga, if I will describe the 5.5 years that passed, sabi ko parang ako na-hazing. Parang ako na-hazing for 5.5 years with a protest before the Supreme Court. My being booted out of two government positions. The first one was as HODC chair and the next one was as ICAD co-chair. So talagang we weren't expecting this. In fact, I was so active in trying to trying to do unification talks because I felt like it would have been the best opportunity, the best solution for anti-administration forces to have a fighting chance in this elections. Pero I've been to a lot of unification talks. I had non-negotiables. There were just a few things that I wanted to know before I decide on supporting a particular candidate. And when the unification talks collapsed, in fact, I was even on the verge of just weighing which of those contenders would make the most sense for me to support. But then, because my non-negotiables were still there, at the last minute, I decided to run. And running and having a very difficult fight is not something that's new to me. When I ran for Congress in 2013, I was running against a well-entrenched political dynasty in my province. And yung surveys talaga noon, wala akong chance to win at all. I just lost my husband. I did not have, I think I mentioned this already to you in one of my speeches from way before, that my district was 7 towns plus 1 city. Lahat na mayors hindi para sa akin kasi kalaban ko incumbent. Isa lang yung mayor out of the 8 LGUs. Less than 10% of the barangay captains were for me. Pero yung sa akin kasi what I was able to prove is that yung resources will help you, but it's not the end all and be all of everything. If you do an honest to goodness campaign where you allow people to get to know you, hindi imposibleng manalo. So my win in 2013 was the one which gave me the strength to say yes to the vice presidency run. Nung vice presidency run, I started at 1%. I was number 6 of 6 candidates. When I was at 1%, the front runner then was at 40%. So halos imposible, but I used the same kind of campaigning that I did in 2013. And that was really go out of my way. Sobrang sipag ko po magkampanya. Go out of my way to reach as many people as possible. And my trajectory during the 2016 elections was pataas talaga, and it was very encouraging in the sense na I think when the official campaign period started, I was already third place. After the first debate, I was at second place. And then last 2 weeks of the campaign, I was already in the first place. So I do understand that the 2022 elections is different. It's different because it's for the presidency. It's different because I don't have a political party anymore which can provide a vast machinery. So talagang it's a big gamble. Pero I would have to be very honest with you that during the announcement last Thursday, we did not expect the kind of reception that we have been getting now. Meaning to say, we knew that my supporters will be happy with the decision. But what we were not prepared for was the deluge of volunteers that we are now getting. So even if my numbers are still low now, everything is upbeat. The momentum is there. There is absolutely no guarantee that we will make it during the elections. But if we fight smart, if we will be able to put up a really honest campaign, I am very hopeful about it.
How different a president would you be? Because our women presidents had really a bad time. They were faced by coup, economic crisis, destabilization, and a military that lacked discipline. How will you contain them?
It is very, very difficult to go into specifics now.
How different a president will you be, ma'am?
To the two other women presidents? Or
how different a president will you be, Madam Vice President?
Compared to all the other presidents, sir, or just to the two women presidents?
How different a president would you be, ma'am?
I don't think Tony's hearing the clarification.
Maybe VP Leni, you can answer it in the context of all the other presidents and in particular of the two prior female presidents.
Yeah.
Yes. Tony is having a bad connection.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry about that, sir. This is a very extraordinary time in our history. Unang-una, we're in the middle of the pandemic. So my presidency will be very different from the previous presidencies in the sense that I will be assuming the office in the middle of a terrible crisis that we are in. So the focus of everything will be really controlling the disease. It will be a whole of government approach. One of the things that we will look into is how the budget can be realigned to make it more pandemic focused. That is one. Number two, I will be giving a lot of effort into fixing the bureaucracy and strengthening the institutions. As I have said, this is a very different time in the history of our country. In a sense, it's like 1986. In a sense, it's like 1986 that there are a lot of institutions to be fixed. The last 5.5 years have seen we have seen a weakening of institutions. So a lot of it will be, a lot of focus will be on that. A lot of focus will be on governance. A lot of focus will be on fixing the kind of politics that we have. I see a fixing of the strengthening of our electoral laws. I will be doing a lot of effort into making sure that all the systems that will make corruption very difficult will be at hand. A lot of focus will be poured into making sure that whatever little budget, whatever little money we have, will be judiciously and prudently used for what we need now. As far as in relation to the other two women presidents, I feel that decisiveness does not have anything to do with gender. For me, government, an efficient government is a government that gets the job done, and that is exactly what we have shown at the OVP. What we are set to do. We have seen decisiveness from many women leaders all over the world as they take the lead in the front lines against this pandemic. We see very effective women leaders in New Zealand. We see President Tsai Ing-wen of Taiwan. Chancellor Angela Merkel in Germany, all of them are being recognized for the speed and effectiveness of their leadership. In the time of COVID, they are rising to the occasion, finding ways around obstacles, and quickly adapting to the crisis. They are finding ways to implement policies and communicate vital information about the virus. Their collaborative, empathetic leadership has brought them through the entire pandemic. And I think this also bears pointing out, because it is easy to equate being a strong and decisive leader with brashness and aggression, with a loud, domineering style of leadership. But for me, that kind of leadership, more often than not, disempowers and frightens others into silence. This should not be the case. Being a strong and decisive leader means nurturing and empowering others to become the best version of themselves. It means channeling strength without bluster, in a manner that is firm yet dignified, and compassionate, empathetic, and thrives quietly yet decisively amidst adversity. I think we were able to showcase that the 5.5 years that I was vice president.
Thank you, VP Leni. Our next questionnaire is Governor Obet. And by the way, we have reached 1,000 in the audience. For those who have friends who want to join, we've posted the Facebook link in the chat box. Okay, so over to you, Governor Obet.
Thank you very much, Tito. We're exceeding 1,000, but hindi na kaya. Thank you very much, ma'am. We're talking about the number of crises that are being confronted with the country today. Now, this is a question from a number of participants. Some sectors have floated the idea, the alleged billion peso family anomaly, the looming case with the International Court of Justice, the worsening poverty and high unemployment arising from the anemic response to the COVID pandemic may push the president to consider declaring martial law in the country. Have you considered this scenario, and how do you respond to this if it happens to the vice president?
Gov Obet, I did not get the entire question because the audio was choppy, but I did get some of them. So
repeat. Okay. Some sectors have floated the idea that the alleged billion peso family anomaly, the looming case with the International Court of Justice, the worsening poverty and high unemployment rates arising from pandemic response to the COVID pandemic, may push the president to consider declaring martial law in the country. Have you considered this scenario, and how would you respond if this happens?
Okay.
Pwede ba rito? Sino ba talaga nakareserve dito?
I am not considering it at all. I don't think there's any need for it. The Farmally scandal has been very frustrating because the alleged corruption is happening in the middle of the gravest health crisis of our time. But any kind of corruption at any stage is unforgivable, especially because we are in the middle of the pandemic. And we always hear government officials say that we do not have enough money, only to find out that there are irregularities such as this. In our minds, how could Farmally get all these contracts without colluding with ranking government officials? I think it's a fair question to be asked by the public. And I hope that the ongoing investigation gets to the bottom of this. The people deserve clean, honest, and accountable governments, most especially in times of crisis. But Gov Obet, I don't think there's any need for martial law. If there is a need to declare anything, it's really health and education crisis. There is no need for martial law to reign because we have enough, laws that we can use to help us get through this crisis. If only government was more efficient, if only government was more accountable. I have been pushing for government to declare an education crisis since last year. we have been faring very, very badly in many of the international surveys as far as education is concerned. That's one thing that needs extraordinary means. The health crisis is here already, but it's something that can be solved by good governance. There are a lot of things that we can do now, which does not necessitate emergency powers. There's a lot of people are already raising their hand.
Oh.
Okay, unmute, Ma'am Vice President.
Yeah. A lot of people are already raising their hands and offering to help. And I have said this in my speech already a while ago, that it is just important for government to be the center of gravity of all the initiatives that are happening in our midst. It's not like we need emergency or extraordinary powers to do that. We have the bayanihan laws already. We have enough laws to help us pull through this crisis. We just need good and effective governance.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for another wonderful answer. Thank you. Rafi, next.
Over to you, Director-elect Rafi.
My next question, Madam Vice President, is on foreign policy and national interest. In July 2016, the Philippines obtained favorable rulings in most petitions to the arbitral tribunal against China's fictitious 9-dash line and its contemptible, intrusive, coercive, and destructive behavior in our EEZ. Subsequently, the incumbent administration chose to focus on an independent foreign policy posture as stated in Article 2, Section 7 of the Constitution. Unfortunately, many see it, rightly or wrongly, as neither independent nor balanced. My question is, what are your thoughts on this? Will you sustain the policy posture? And in what ways will it differ in practice under your presidency?
Rafi, for me, it will always be more beneficial to us to have an inclusive and independent foreign policy as opposed to one which favors specific countries. But that being said, for China, we will collaborate with them in the areas that we have no conflict, such as trade and investments, much like what Vietnam has been doing. But when it comes to the West Philippine Sea, we cannot deal with them without their recognition of the arbitral ruling. For example, we only agree to joint oil exploration with them if there is first a recognition of our rights as declared by the arbitral tribunal. As for the United States, being one of our oldest allies, we will continue strengthening our relations with them, especially given the fact that a lot of Filipinos are working and living there. But we want to create better ties, especially in the areas of protection for our citizens, increasing exports, bolstering trade, military and intelligence capabilities, and of course, protecting the West Philippine Sea. We also need to strengthen our diplomatic relations with our other allies, the ASEAN countries, EU, Great Britain, Australia, and all the others. And in countries where there are large concentration of OFWs, we do all we can to cement bilateral agreements with them to ensure the protection of Filipinos and to ensure satisfactory labor conditions for them. We will be open to working with everyone so long as it is, of course, to the best interest of the Filipino people.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Sec.
Tony, you are next.
Yeah, Madam Vice President, I must say you are very good. You are super good.
Thank you, sir.
You are super good and you really are surprising me. You know how to answer elegantly, flippantly, substantially. Now, my question is this. 30 million of our voters do not have a job. They want their jobs right now. What can you offer them, ma'am? aside from palliatives and slogans?
You know, it is very difficult to overpromise. But one thing that will bring jobs back is to make sure that the pandemic is under control. I have never subscribed to the false dichotomy of health versus the economy. For me, for us to be able to open our economy again, we have to control the virus first. We have to control the transmission first. It will be very difficult to say that, you know, I know that we have to live with the virus, but it is a different thing to live with them and not controlling them. So that will be the first. The first really is how can we effectively control the virus so that we can successfully open the economy already. The second thing is confidence. You know, even before the pandemic happened, we already had problems with foreign direct investments. We were already failing in that particular aspect. And confidence is one of the reasons why we're not doing very well as far as attracting foreign investments are concerned. And there is a lot to be desired as far as, you know, gaining the confidence back, so that foreign direct investments will once again flourish in the country. That's as far as bringing in investments. As far as our local economy is concerned, we all know for a fact that a large swath of our businesses are MSMEs. A lot of them closed shop during the pandemic, and that is equivalent to a lot of jobs lost. So one of the things I've been pushing since last year was not just offering low-interest loans to our MSMEs, but really providing for a stimulus package for them, meaning to say conditional grants for our MSMEs so that they will be in a better position to open up again, provide jobs for those who became unemployed during the pandemic. But you know, everything else is policy and how government inspires confidence. And to inspire confidence, you know, we have to make sure that corruption is in check. We have to make sure that we are offering our businesses a level playing field. We have to make sure that opportunities are fair and are equal as far as businesses are concerned. So it's a whole lot of many different moving parts.
Thank you, but you don't cite numbers of how many jobs you are going to create in the first 6 months, ma'am.
Sir, as I have said earlier, I do not want to overpromise. I just can promise the number of jobs without really understanding what is the exact plane that we are taking off from. I don't have enough data to say that, you know, we have this much money to infuse in this particular activity. So as I have said, it's many different moving parts, and you know, one thing I can promise is I will make sure that my administration will inspire confidence as far as the business sector is concerned.
Thank you, VP Leni. Thank you, Tony. By the way, for everybody's understanding, VP Leni did not receive our questions in advance. And probably that's the reason why veteran publisher Tony Lopez is impressed. So anyway, let's move on to Governor Obet. No?
Yes. Madam Vice President, thank you, Lito. After failed attempts.
By the way, for everybody's... so anyway, let's move on to Governor Obet.
Thank you, Lito.
Madam Vice President, thank you, Lito.
Madam Vice President. Oh, I think there's some audio problem. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes.
After failed attempts to unify the opposition, you filed your COC for president and chose Senator Kiko Pangilinan running mate, who declared that he'll be willing to give way to someone who may be deemed to enhance the team's chances of winning. Are you still open to the possibility of uniting the opposition at this stage, Madam Vice President?
You know, I will be very candid with you, Governor Obet. I think from August until September, that is all I ever did. I have been visiting many of the contenders. I have been visiting many different people. In an attempt to unite the opposition. But you know, I mentioned this earlier already that in those conversations, there was an acceptance that a lot of my non-negotiables would not be answered. I of course I cannot reveal the details of all the discussions. I cannot reveal the details of the discussions, but while unification was a very important objective of all those talks, there was a limit. There was a limit to what we can unify behind. When I decided to run for the vice presidency, it was my signal to move on already from all attempts to unify the personalities and the parties. But one of the things why I'm sure you have heard of it already, that I decided to run as an independent. My decision to run as an independent was really to send a very important message that we are open to those who want to join our cause, to share our vision of better governance for the country. I am still honorary chairman of the Liberal Party, but running as an independent was our symbolic way of showing this openness. We have seen where hateful and divisive politics can lead our country, especially during the pandemic. And my personal take on this is that now more than ever, we really need to put our people's welfare first before politics. We have been pushing for inclusivity, and we have already started doing this after I filed by reaching out and talking to those who are not members of the party. From the start, as I've said, from the start, our goal has always been to forge the broadest unity possible. But the 2022 elections is not just about me or our party or between the personalities. It's really the collective power of the people. So we have already finalized our slate. I have not been authorized to reveal it first, but if you look at after we announce our senatorial slate, you will see that our slate is composed of representatives from many different parties. At most, we would only have, I think, 3 from the Liberal Party. So if unity was not possible among the presidential contenders, I have not given up on unifying our people. And we have seen from the response after the announcement and after the filing that we have been getting support from people who belong to different parties or people who were apolitical at first, are now volunteering to help join our cause. So we are very hopeful that unity is still possible. Maybe not among the presidential contenders, but definitely among many different kinds of people from different political affiliations.
Ma'am, you talked about inclusivity. May I just ask you a follow-up question? You're doing very well in the surveys, according to statistics, and this is a question from many from the floor. You're doing very well with the ABCs, but there are about 50 million voters who are not even social media members. And how do you plan to reach out to them and win the support of the DE demographics, who constitute a great majority of the voters, Madam Vice President?
of Obet, I also thought before that I was doing very well with, because the surveys would be A, B, C, then D, and E. With D being the biggest voting bloc. I always thought that I did best in the ABC category. But if you look at the numbers, that's not the case. If you look at the numbers, I do very well with the E. But I'm not doing well with D1 and C. Nakalampo kasi siya ABC eh. So we don't really have a good enough imagination na ilan ba dun sa ABC yung C. Pero I'm not doing good with D, and we've had many briefings already from survey companies, and they're saying that this is the population block that are on social media. So yung C saka, because there's D1 and D2. Yung C and D1, that's where I am not good at all. My numbers are very, very low dun sa C and D1. And yung sa amin, yung ina-explain sa amin, yun yung middle class. Yun yung middle class na are on social media. So the interpretation is that the propaganda against me over the past 5.5 years have been very successful. That this is the bulk of the voters, and this is the bulk who think that I am no good at all. So that is where we will concentrate our efforts now. We continue to reach out to the A, B, and the E, but we will pour in a lot of time and investment on the C and the D1 who are on social media. And because we do not have the resources for that, we are relying on volunteer support, which we have a lot of. It's a good problem for us. After the announcement, we have been deluged with volunteers, and we are trying to harness the enthusiasm and the energy of our volunteers. So we want to have stronger social media presence. But it's not like the social media presence that have been that was being pushed by some parties. But we want this to be a truth-telling kind of campaign, just to break all the disinformation and the propaganda that has proliferated in social media since the elections of 2016. So it's one of the things that we're looking at very, very seriously.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, VP Leni. We understand you have time constraints.
Yes, so, I have a 1:30 meeting, sir.
Okay. Might you be, so I guess one more question will not suffice. One more will suffice?
Yes. One more.
Okay. It's 1:27 kasi, and then we still have a minute of, sharing something with you. So over to Director Rafi, please. Unmute yourself, Rafi.
Please unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay.
All right. I hope this can be answered in 3 minutes, ma'am. The first 100 days of a president is traditionally meant to hit the ground running and lay the presidency's cornerstones and foundations to define it. Based on what you've learned through the years in statecraft, from keen observation and actual experience, what can the Filipino people expect from you in your first 100 days in office? What matters to you most that you'd like to have the most impact or imprint on society?
The first question, Sec Rafi, is because we are in the middle of the pandemic, the first order of business really be controlling the pandemic. Focusing all our efforts on decreasing the number of COVID cases dramatically so we can fully reopen the economy. And to do this, we must realign the national budget so that it will be more akin to addressing the pandemic. We will be coming in from a set budget already. This means realigning the budget, allotting more funds for healthcare services and facilities, COVID-19 response, social services for Filipinos. This also means improving access to hospitals, building more facilities if needed, improving infrastructure to access COVID vaccines, the logistical support for vaccines. Time and again, I have said that health is the front-end domino. We address it and the rest of the challenges become less daunting. We will have a comprehensive plan. We already have a comprehensive plan on testing, tracing, treating, vaccination. We will empower our healthcare system, take better care of our medical frontliners, vaccinate as many people as possible. But to the next question, I have always said that it is good governance. It is really good governance that will pave the way for a better Philippines. It is good governance that will give the necessary changes that we have been dreaming of. So one can expect a real focus on strengthening institutions, on cleaning the bureaucracy, setting platforms to ensure that good governance is in place. It's really changing the entire culture of politics and governance in the country. It's giving more space for people to directly participate in governance, more institutions that will make sure that transparency and accountability will be primordial. So it's many of those things.
Vice President, can I ask a question, Vice President, before you leave?
Pwede pa ba talaga?
Can I ask one question, Madam?
Sorry.
One question,
sorry.
Madam President.
I'm being called to the next meeting already, sir. They're here already.
Yeah.
So
Let's proceed. Let's proceed. Let's program.
I promise po, if you can leave na lang in the chat box, I can send the answers later.
Yes, VP Leni. That's
my question actually is very simple.
Tony, she has to go. Yes, to go.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. Tony, VP Leni.
We have to give the...
It just requires a 3-word answer, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam President.
Maybe now move on to Vice President-elect Sec. Reggie Yu, the presentation of the club's token of appreciation